Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Chamisa announced that he is coming back into politics after 2 years' absence. The number one reason he gave for coming back is that he stepped aside and for 2 years he hoped somebody else will fill up that space. And nobody did. The space is vacant. And he is going back on the dancing floor to dance for the nation. The number two reason he gave is that he's not just another dancer on the dancing floor. He is there to solve the many unsolved problems of the country. Let's just listen to the first bit of that speech. I'm sure many of you have had a chance to listen to all of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the press corps, fellow citizens, I come to you at such a critical moment in the history of our country, possibly after 2 years, having left the dance floor, hoping that somebody else would occupy that dance floor. But I see there's none who has chosen to occupy the dance floor, and the dance floor is vacant. And I've seen it fit that I'm back on the floor to dance for my nation, to dance for the citizens, and to dance for the future. Our nation faces a pivotal moment and a critical juncture in the history of our country. The promise of independence has not yet translated into that rapid, accelerated transformation that we hoped to see. We have not seen transformation. That promise has been hijacked. We have not seen shared prosperity. We have not seen the dignity that had been promised to the citizens. We have not seen the sovereignty that the citizens were promised. We have not seen opportunities for all. But today, Zimbabwe is gripped by a disputed national processes cycle, deepening economic hardships, political uncertainty, social collapse, and moral decay. Government services and supports has been partisanized, meaning to say that things are done according to the partisan lines. We've seen an escalation of discohesion, unfolding instability, heightened national anxiety, and eroded public trust.
I'll stop it there. I think it is important here that we get our historic facts correct. I'll start by addressing the issue of he is back on the dancing floor to resolve the nation's crisis. My starting point is here is an individual who has been a senior member of the opposition, the MDC-CCC, for the last 20, well, up to the point he resigned, 23 years. MDC-CCC had the golden opportunity to implement the democratic changes that would have addressed all these problems, political and economic problems that he's talking about. They had the golden opportunity during the GNU of 2008 to 2013 to address these problems. They failed to implement even one token reform. The reason for it? It is well established. Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office, and we have since learned extras. Chamisa himself, Tendai Biti, Welshman Nuwe, even the late Morgan Tsvangirai himself got farms. Faramrom. We cannot run away from the fact that the MDC leaders sold out. That is a political reality that is so well established. It is absolutely nonsensical to even try to deny it. So given that historic reality, to now believe that Chamisa will this time come back on the dancing floor and address those economic and political problems that the nation has been facing, I think is far-fetched, to say the least. The immediate question is, why didn't you address them when you had the golden opportunity, particularly during the GNU? I think it would be more logical to say he's coming back for another chance to get more reward from ZANU-PF. Because make no mistake about it, Chamisa and company are going to participate in 2028 elections without even one token reform implemented. The chief beneficiary of that will be ZANU-PF, because they will rig the elections, and if Chamisa participate and they manage to get millions of their supporters to participate, they will give ZANU-PF legitimacy. We're back to where we are. And for that, ZANU-PF has in the past rewarded the likes of Chamisa. And that is also another historic fact. So let's go back to the number one reason he gave. I'm coming back on the dancing floor because nobody else stepped forward to fill that vacuum. I think there's truth in that. But for us to understand why no one else stepped forward to fill that vacuum, we need to understand the MDC, the leadership, and their followers. The US ambassador to Zimbabwe, 2004 to 2007, Chris Dale, said in a cable back to Washington that Morgan Tsvangirai was a flawed character with bad judgment, indecisive. And he predicted that if Morgan Tsvangirai was ever to get into power, he could become the albatross around the nation's neck. People need to understand how that is possible. If he is a flawed character, indecisive, etc., etc., and the membership, those around him, his core leaders, and the membership themselves are able to see those faults, they will, of course, not elect him or keep him as leader. They will replace him. But that is at the heart of the failed political system in Zimbabwe. He surrounded himself with individuals who were equally flawed, indecisive, corrupt, and incompetent. And that we can ascertain by looking at their record. Like I said, they had the best opportunity to implement the democratic reforms during the GNU. They had 5 years. The MDC leaders were in the majority in parliament. They were in the majority in cabinet. And it would have required only one of them, an MP, a senator, a deputy minister, or minister, or deputy prime minister, or Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai himself, to submit a reform proposal, a democratic reform proposal in parliament. Designed to dismantle this ZANU-PF dictatorship. None of them submitted a reform proposal in 5 years. When Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office, they were so busy enjoying themselves, they forgot about the reforms. That's how corrupt and incompetent and utterly useless they were. As ZANU-PF crony during the GNU boasted, that must be an MDC adzidza kudya nyerere. The MDC leaders have learned to enjoy the trappings of high office. They'll never rock the boat. That is how corrupt, incompetent the entire MDC leadership were. And then you couple that with the membership. The membership, even now with the benefit of hindsight, many of them have no clue that the primary purpose of the GNU of 2008 to 2013 was to implement the democratic reforms. Yes, of course, they repeated the slogans, chinja, chinja, but had no clue what those slogans meant. And even now, with the benefit of hindsight, they still have no clue. And therefore, then it is no surprise that those membership just follow the leaders blindly. Like it or not, they worshipped Morgan Tsvangirai. And when Chamisa took over, they also worshipped him. Not because he had done anything or said anything of substance. That is the caliber of membership we are dealing with here. I think at the time when Chamisa walked away from Triple C, any other competent member would have been after him, demanding an explanation on why, for instance, he had lied about plugging vote-rigging loopholes. Why he had turned around and said the whole party was infiltrated by ZANU-PF. And yet he was the one who was boasting that his strategic ambiguity had prevented ZANU-PF infiltrating the party. There were so many things that Chamisa owed an explanation to the membership. And I think he walked away to run away from accountability. But after 2 years, he realized that those supporters were never going to go after him. To him, he was still a hero. It is no exaggeration to say that the Chamisa Chete Brigade members have a personality cult mentality. Chamisa is considered to be a demigod who can do no wrong. And anyone who dares question anything he does, he or she becomes public enemy number one. When you've got such membership, you get away with anything. So in this particular case, if anyone was to step into the void and expect the support of the Chamisa Chete Brigade, they could forget it. Because they are so blinkered. They see Chamisa as a demigod. And he has just come back to reclaim his throne. That is where our problem lies. We do not have the problem with just the leaders. We've got the problem with the ordinary Zimbabweans, the voters, the electorate. And judging from the number of people who voted for Chamisa in 2023, 2 million Zimbabweans voted for Chamisa. Another 2 million for ZANU-PF. That constitutes the entire electorate. This is our problem in Zimbabwe. We have an electorate that is so brainwashed to the point they cannot think for themselves. Those who support Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF, they do so blindly. And those who support Chamisa and company, they do so blindly. Explaining to them that the situation Zimbabwe is in is a man-made problem is a serious challenge. The ZANU-PF supporters blame the opposition. The opposition supporters blame ZANU-PF. They cannot accept that the two parties, the two leaders, have played a role in getting Zimbabwe to this mess. Ambassador Christel was right when he said if Tsvangirai ever got into power, he'll become an albatross around the nation's neck, a burden. He could have said the same thing about the other MDC leaders, because they have become a burden to the nation. More so because their supporters are blind. And that is what makes it so difficult to have any meaningful change in Zimbabwe. So let me repeat. Chamisa is back, but it's not going to change anything of substance. is just going to con people to participate in flawed 2028 elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy. His followers don't see that. And it will take a lot of explaining to make them open their eyes to see it. That is why Ambassador Christel was right. MDC leaders have become the albatross around the nation's neck. Think about it. Good night.